Hello, Mr. Ed here on a, well, overcast, no, it's not overcast, but a foggy March 6th, 2023. Early in the springtime, and Charlie's right behind the camera. You gonna get in there, Charlie? There he is, right there.
I'm suited up because these girls are bad.
They are, they're bad. And what are we doing out here? We're in our St. Mary's yard right now. And Charlie and I are again attempting to make our splits. Now, I know for a bunch of new beekeepers, you always hear that term, making splits, making splits. So what is that making splits is all about? Well, as a beekeeper, by making a split, I'm in sense kind of preventing swarms. That's what so it's swarm prevention. You're just splitting that hive before they're large enough to split on their own. And my philosophy has always been that if your bees swarm and you lose that swarm, I always say goodbye to your honey for that year, because it's generally that swarm, primarily the very first swarm, when our old queen flies away and takes half the brood with her, half the bees with her, and they go off somewhere else. And now there's a good chance that those bees would make some honey. But the ones that stay behind, it's possible for them to make a surplus, but it's been my experience not too often. So today, what I'm trying to do is to take advantage of our early spring. And in truth, this really isn't an early spring for us. It is early compared to the last 2 years that we've had, where we weren't where we are right now as far as number of bees in our hives and things that are blooming. We were 3 weeks ahead. We were actually at the end of March when all that stuff started happening. Here we are, we're in our second week, or the beginning of the second week of March. And it's like unbelievable what we see going on around us in nature, what's blooming. And as I'm standing here in the woods today, I'm looking at blackberries that are blooming, got Carolina jasmine, I got over there, we got tongue oil, a ton of blackberries behind us, and this is just in this one little area. It's for us here in Southeast Louisiana, it's definitely springtime. And so, like I said, we're here trying to do early splits because I want to make my splits as early as possible, because the whole premise of what I'm trying to do is to get honey. And all bees are going to make the honey, but what I'm trying to do is allow the bees to get large enough, quick enough, so that when our major honey flows start, which is in May and June, that we're going to have enough bees in our box. Hopefully we're going to have 2 full boxes of bees in there, so that we can then have a surplus, produce a surplus of honey. And that would then translate anywhere from 4 to 8 gallons of honey per hive. And that's the whole reason I want to get our bees split as early as possible, to allow the new queen to build up her forces in time for us possibly to get a honey surplus. And our old queens, instead of her flying off and taking our honey with her, then we'll get that honey that they're going to produce. And it's almost inevitable. The old queens, for me, always produce our honey, because the old queen, she comes out laying from the split. She's already laying, and when we split her, move her off, she's already laying eggs, getting all that stuff going. Whereas the new queen that's coming in, the one that we split and left behind in the old box, she's 40 days out before the first bee that can ever hatch out and start working. Well, it's actually more than 40 days. It might be 50 days. 50 days, though it may not seem a lot, that's 6 weeks. So at 6 weeks, of time that the old queen and her crew, they've already been out there working, gathering honey, bringing it in, building up bees, and the new queen, they're not there. So generally, the new queens don't have a workforce built up really until end of May, right as our tallow is coming in. If we're lucky, she's going to be built up, the hive is going to be built up strong enough where we may be able to get a little bit of surplus off of that. And generally what I find, those hives, I wind up leaving that third super on them because they just weren't able to fill it out. Whereas my old queens, boy, I'm pulling full 10 frame boxes of honey off of them. So, hey Charlie, right now, would you pan down and show these two hives that we're standing in front of, show what they look like? As Charlie is showing you, the activity in front of these boxes, it's very indicative of what you see on the outside as to what's going on the inside of these two boxes. And so what I want to do is that's telling me that these boxes can possibly can be candidates to make splits. Now, the way I'm going to do splits today, I'm going to try two different ways. Hopefully, the way that I like doing best is using swarm cells. But I've only found one swarm cell, and I probably opened up 40 hives over the last week and a half, and I've only found one swarm cell. So I don't know if we're going to find swarm cells, but if we do, we're going to do the split right now, and we'll show you that if we do one. But if we don't have them, then the other way we're going to do them is with using a double screen dividing board. Now this is the double screen dividing board, and wouldn't you know it, the one that I picked doesn't have the screen on the back of it. So all it is a board that it's just a piece of 3/4 inch plywood with an entrance cut on it. Thanks, Charlie. And
We mess up every now and then.
and it's got screen on both sides of it. Now to do mine, I use just the fiberglass mosquito net. That's what I use for mine. And I did find that prior to this year, that when I would use them and I would staple my mosquito netting around, I would just come just to the edge of the board. But what happens a lot of times, if you're not covering your screen, then the bees can actually get underneath that screen and then get caught between the layers. And then this section in here and in here, they'll fill up with bees, and it's a mess. You don't want to do that. So to correct that this year, I've extended my screen all the way to the edges of the frame and even modified the front of it where I can staple my edge down in the front on the entrance so the bees can't get underneath that. So this is what we're going to be using, I think, more of today, or our double screen. But for me to use the double screen, I still have to have criteria for me to use it. And I base that on the number of bees in the hive. I basically want to have at least six frames of bees in each hive. And if I have that criteria, 6 frames of bees, I'm going to go ahead and drop this board in. And when I drop it in, I use the entrance. All these hives, the entrances are facing out. So when I put this board in, the entrance right here is going to be facing this way. And so the hive that's going to be on the top, their entrance will be opposite. And what happens when you use one of these boards, any of the field bees in this top box, they're going to migrate out, and when they come back out, they're going to go back down into the bottom. So the population in the bottom swells up initially, and then the one at the top shrinks a little. But 90-95% of the time, our queen is already up in our second box, and she's going to catch all that. She'll be able to catch up real quick. Charlie and I are going to be trying to work at least 5 of our out yards today, and the process is pretty quick. We just open the box. I look at it. I'm looking first for swarm cells. If we do, we'll do the split right then and there. And if not, and it meets the criteria of enough bees in the box, will drop a double screen dividing board in it. Now with the double screen dividing board, what it does is the hive that the box, or the hive that the queen is not in, that hive, that box, will then create an emergency cell queen. And they do that because there's no queen in there. And since there's no queen, they're going to need a queen. So they produce a queen almost within a few hours. It could be a day, but they're limited. They have to have a queen, so they're going to make one as fast as they can. So what happens is 7 to 10 days later, so today's Monday, so next Monday I'll come out, and whatever hives that we've dropped these double screen boards in, I'll go through that, and I'm going to move that top box off, because like I said, that's where our queen is. Move her off and go through that bottom one looking for emergency cells that formed. If there were no cells formed in that one, then I got to go look in the top one, because maybe the queen was in the bottom one, so they didn't make a queen cell. So wherever the queen wasn't, I need to go look through that box to see if I've got emergency cells. And if that's the case, I'll just make my split right then and there, and it's done. So that's really the process that we're going to do. I can't say how many of these things we're going to find that are candidates for our double screen board, but if we do find some, you're going to watch us put these in action. Charlie, you ready to do some splits?
Let's do some splits.
All right, let's do it. I do not go into our boxes except to do honey and to make splits. And so because of that reason, the bees aren't used to seeing people coming into their boxes or seeing me go in their boxes. So I don't like using smoke, but for this occasion, I have the smoker lit. Also, for this occasion, because these boxes haven't been opened since a year ago, when they were added, when this super was placed on top of it, there's generally a lot of bridge comb in between the top of the bottom frames and the bottom of the top frames. And it makes it very, very, very difficult to lift this box off of here. So what I do, I'll put my hive tool in there and separate them, and then I use what the dirt rooster affectionately calls a shank, a prison shank, to hold my boxes, separate my boxes. And these little notches in there, I can then push the tool into the shank into the box, and it will separate the box. At that point, I can take my hive tool and start separating the frames from each other, from the frames on the bottom and the frames on the top, separating that bridge comb, then allowing me to be able to lift the top and check the hive. The other thing that I do at this point is I've got a bucket that I will collect all the bridge comb, and because I'll use all the wax, I'll take all that stuff back to the Abbey, and eventually all that stuff is going to be melted down. So we're going to go ahead, and first thing we're going to do is remove our lid. Now, so as you can see, that's a great sign to seeing all the bees right on the top. So I'm going to give these girls a little puff, drop them down. And as I place my hive tool in the corner of the box, when I lift this thing up, this is where you're going to have the bees come out of. So I generally want to have my smoker with me. So like, as you can tell, you see how it's stuck? That's because of the bridge comb in there. So I'm gonna separate this thing a little bit more. Now I'm gonna stick my prison shank right in there, lift it up, and you see it'll hold it up, and it will at that point allow me. This time nothing happened. None of the frames were attached, but I could pop the frames off at that point. So the bees didn't come out this time, which is good. So now that I've got nothing holding these two boxes together, I can now lift this box up. Well, I say that it's still going to weigh a lot. Now let's find out how this colony is doing. Man, this box is heavy with honey. Wow, look at this. Now these bees, this is what you want to see right here. Goodness sakes. I'm trying to balance it so it won't fall. Look at this. Look how many frames of bees I've got. And this is how since we've got queen cups right here. There's lots of them, but none of these are cells. None of them are swarm cells. They haven't developed. This is the ideal box for a double screen board. I mean, generally, the bridge comb that the bees build at this time of year, they're going to fill that bridge comb with drone cells. And you can see this is all drones right here. And what is a really good idea is to take a good look at the drones that are in there. And what are we taking a look at? We're trying to see if we find any mites on them. None of our yards or any of our hives are treated. So we're a treatment-free hive, apiary. And Charlie, I want you to zoom in on these things, on as many as you can, and just looking at these drones right here, there is not one mite crawling around on these things. And that's what you need to take advantage of when you open a box like this. You need to look and to see, well, can you see mites on your drones? And as Charlie's panning around, there is not one mite on it. And actually, when I opened probably 45 boxes over the last week, I counted 3 mites in 45 boxes. So I'm not saying we don't have mites in our boxes, but our count is so low, the bees can manage that part. All right, so what I'm going to do initially is because I'm going to put that board right here, I need to scrape all of this bridge comb off of here. So that's what I'm going to do first, to scrape that off and put it in my bucket. I'll clear off the bees so I won't get too many bees. And as I'm clearing it off, I'm also wiping out any of the queen cells. Now let me see if there's anything in this. All right, so look, I just opened that one, and they don't even have royal jelly in it, and that was probably the nicest one. Here's another one. We'll open it up. Yep, there's no even royal jelly in that. So they're drawing out the cups, but they're not even filling them up yet. When you see the drones in here, that is a sign of swarming to come. So we know it's coming, but it just hasn't happened yet. So these girls have not built any swarm cells yet, and because of that, I'm dropping that board in. Let me clean all this stuff off. Now I'm going to have to move this box off to really finish cleaning off this bottom box. And I know this thing is going to be heavy. Look at all the bees up on the top of it. This thing probably weighs 50 pounds. And it's chock full of honey. Let's find out what this one is. Yeah, this one's not bad, but it's definitely not as heavy as this one. Okay. Now that our board, our top of our boxes are all cleaned off, we can now set our double screen on there. And our entrance is at this end. But when we put this box back on, our entrance becomes this end. And what happens is all these bees that are flying around, they're not even going to come to here. They're all going to go right back to the front, and the bees in the box below it, that number is going to swell up, and the bees over here, she'll lose some of this. But I know our queen is up here. Generally, I find that wherever you find your swarm cells, that's where the box that your queen is. Now, she goes between the top and bottom box regularly, but she still winds up most of the time in this one. Now all we're going to do is place this box, which weighs a bunch, right here. And basically, that is it. I have to come back next Monday. I'll come back and I'll look into this box and see, because this is where I think I'm going to find my emergency cells. I'll look in here, and I'll probably make a video on that as well. But that's how I use a double screen board. So we've got a bunch of other yards to go to, and if by chance we come across one that has a swarm cell, we'll go ahead and we'll show you how I do use those things as well. And look at that. The very next box that we went to, look at this. We got one of them right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this box right here on the side, and I'm going to show you how I go about removing a swarm cell to use it. As I'm looking in, I showed you that one, but we found another one here on the bottom, and there's one right here that's got royal jelly in it. So we definitely have two, and there may be an egg. I don't see a larva in that one, but in any case, all three of those cells are going to be used. I see on this one there's royal jelly. Charlie, I want, if you come around, show the bees that are inside of this box. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 frames of bees. Well, 10 frames with bees covering them. And like I said, my best guess is my queen is up in this box right here. So I'm going to cut out these cells and show you how I cut them out and then how I put them into the next box. I love using a fillet knife for this procedure because it's very thin, it's sharp, and a lot of times when the cell is built onto the wood itself, like this one is down here, I can actually shave into the wood to remove the cell without damaging it. Now this one right here, this one's actually built off of the cell and there's wax behind it, so this one should be a pretty easy one to get out. So I'm going to remove that one first. I'm going to put a little smoke on them, drive them back. Now with the bees gone, you can clearly see that cell. And as I take my knife, I'm running along the edge of the frame and the back of the wax. And see, I actually cut out some of the wood. Now I did rupture the royal jelly right here, but that should not be bad because it's the back side of the cell. So we're going to take this one and put it on the side. And now we're going to come and get the one on the bottom right here. And this one, because it is actually on the wood, I'll have to remove some of the wood of the frame on this one. So I slice some of the wood, and as soon as I get below the cell, come back, cut the other way, and there you are. Now this one, you can see, because I cut the wood away, I did not even rupture that cell. So there we have a really good queen cell and one that's got royal jelly in it. And the bees can then develop that if they want to, but we've already got a queen in there for sure. Alright, so I'll clean off the rest of this stuff right here, and we're going to go ahead and make a split on this one right now. And look at that. In that one that wasn't capped, there was a larva in it. So we're going to put this one in there as well. As you can see, all of the bridge comb is removed, and now all I got to do is move this box. Now the question is, well, Mr. Ed, how far do you have to move that box? You have to be far away? not at all. I could actually leave it right next door, but I don't want it to be so confusing on the bees. I'm just going to move this one to this spot right here. And I'm making the assumption that my queen, my old queen, is now in this box right here. And next week, when I come out to this yard, I will check that box right there to make sure we have a queen at least in it. And that I'll check that by looking at the queen cells to see if you have emerging ones or ones that have been chewed. So let me finish this one up, and then we're going to move right over to the next one, and we're going to put those cells onto one of those frames. Now it's time to take the cells that we just took out of that box and put them in here. The first thing I got to do, run these bees down and clean off that bridge comb right there. So we have one more swarm cell right there, and look, you see the larva right there? Right there. Had a larva in it. With the bridge comb down, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull one frame out of it, and I like pulling a frame from the center of it to put my cells on. And with a little luck, I'll be able to get this frame up with not too much trouble. Beautiful. All right, so I'm going to shake these bees off of it. And you can see we've got old brood right here. There's pollen right here. We're going to get rid of this comb right here. And this is going to be an ideal frame for me to use. And the way I do this, I take my hod tool and I put it on the comb, push in all the way to the foundation, and I drag the wax down, exposing the foundation like that. The next thing I do is I get a cell and I push that cell into that spot. Now I need some wax to hold it in, so I'll go down to that comb that I've got in that bucket. Let me do this a little better. I'm going to put that down first. Put the cell right in there and press it into that wax. There we go. Still isn't solid in there. Let me try to get a little bit more on it. Because you really want this thing secure. You want that cell to be in that position, locked in. Now there you go. Now it's really locked in good. Now I'm going to grab the next one. Do the same thing. Put it in there. Grab some more wax. lock that one down. And then our third one, we're just going to put that one right below these. So we get all of our cells on the same frame, right close to each other. Now this cell right here was the uncapped one, but it did have a larva in it. Look at that. And then when you pick it up, they actually look like superseding cells now. So a cell, the queen that's in those cells doesn't know she's a swarm queen, a superseding queen, or even an emergency queen. She just knows she's a queen. And when one of these queens comes out, she'll kill the other two. So with that done, and they're hanging inside of the frame like that, it's a very, very easy thing to drop our frame in, which we're going to do right now. Look how the bees are already on this. Beautiful. That's beautiful. Drop this in here. And because I pushed those cells so far back, there isn't any issue of me dropping that frame in there worrying about whether that queen cell is going to get torn off or ruptured or something, because they're set way back. So we'll smoke these girls down. Cover them up. Oh, before I do that, I got to get my marker and I got to mark that. I want to mark the frame that I just put those cells on, so that when I can come back next week, I can know which one of these frames. It doesn't like to write on that wax. Which one of those frames had our cells in it. So with that being done, now we can close up the hive. Now remember when I said that as I moved that box that used to be on top of this, just down the way right there, that it was going to lose bees. And so what happens is they flew out of that box. Their GPSs are set, but they were set for this location. And look how many bees we got coming back to this one. So that's what I was saying. The number of bees in this box is going to swell. The number of bees in the box that I moved off will diminish. But being that our queen is in that box, it's going to balance out very quickly. And when we come next week, when I come next week to look at this, I will then at that point bring supers to then add on to both this box and the box down there as well. So that's it as far as doing the splits, the way I'm going to be doing my splits today. I'll come back one more time to finish the video and tell you how many splits we did and how many ways we did them. So until then, we'll see you in a little bit. Yeah, all right, so I'm figuring out what we got. Let's see. So we
He's calculating right now.
Charlie and I worked 43 hives today. Now, wait a second.
I feel it too. Look, I see even sweat.
Let's see. No, I got it now. So we just now finished up. It's about 1:40. We started about. We got out there first shot about 8:30.
Yeah, it was about 8:30.
So we 4 hours. We probably worked 4 hours today. Now we drove a lot of miles today. We probably drove 60, 65 miles going to the yards, because we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yards. We visited 6 yards today, and in those 6 yards we had 43 hives. Out of those 43, we did 36 of them using the double screen boards. We had 2 of them. We only saw 3 capped swarm cells today. You all saw some, and then there was one more hive. We had so then we did 2 splits using our queen cells, our swarm cells, and then we did 1 split as a basic walk away, because what happened was we had one of the boxes falling apart, and it had so many bees in that box. We changed out the box, and we actually added another box and took the top box and moved it off. So we did a walkaway split. So all total, we probably did 40 splits today. Now, that's a good day.
That's pretty good.
That's a good day.
That's pretty good.
So Charlie, anything else?
No.
How many hits you
about
took?
it. I took 2 hits in the leg. They stung me through my pants, and that was it.
Plenty of stingers in the pants leg.
Yeah,
that's for
oh
sure.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I was picking them out, man.
So the screen bottom boards, for me this year, it's definitely the way to go because I want to get that early jump on getting a queen in our box. And since the trick that you have to, or what you have to consider is you can't do it so early if you don't have the drone population out there to get you mated queens. But with all the drones that we saw in the hives, the drones that were going to be merged, we still have at least 10-12 days before these queens that are going to be emerging are going to come out. By that time, we're going to have a lot of drones, and they'll have enough drones out there to get mated. So that's the only chance that I'm taking right now. But the number of bees in our boxes, I think the smallest one that we did a split with had 7 frames of bees in both boxes. That's how these boxes are so full of bees. And I know by next Monday when we come out and we check them, we've got to load the van up with boxes to add to give them room, because it's going to be, golly, with all the stuff that's blooming and the bees working right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be...
It's game on now.
Game on for sure.
But I think this season is pretty much on time now. Whereas last year it was like really late. But everything is running on time right now. It's just perfect.
Yeah, I love it.
Yep, I do too. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Charlie. Keep on watching.
We'll be making more.
God bless, Mr. Ed. And
good time, Charlie.
2 work old horses right here.
The oldest ones.
We're out of here until the next video. God bless.